Welcome back to another episode of Geekorama, a podcast by geeks for geeks. We are produced by superherofiction.com, the one-stop shop for all your superhero novel needs. We are your hosts.
I'm Jeremy Flagg, author of the Children of Nostradamus universe.
And I am T.L. Heinrich, author of the Vigilante superhero universe.
So this week we're going to be talking about a very unknown movie called Guardians, which is the Russians' answer to the Avengers. And we might have to put this into the it's so bad it's maybe good category, but we'll see. I'm gonna defend it until my dying breath. I'm gonna try. I'll try.
Good luck. He's gonna die on that hill, folks.
Of all things. But before we get into the geek outs, what do you have for pop culture trivia?
So I've got a really interesting one. I'm kind of excited about it. So August 1940, the superhero or supervillain, depending on how you want to look at it, Clairvoyant, aka the Black Widow, premiered. And this is a Marvel comic, by the way. She was introduced in Mystic Comics #4 as, quote, the strangest, most terrifying character in action picture magazines, unquote. Her book features artwork by Harry Sale, and according to Jess Nevin's Encyclopedia of Golden Age Superheroes, quote, the Black Widow can kill with a touch and has other Satan-derived plot device powers. The wrongdoers she goes after are ordinary humans, although one group of them call themselves Murderer Unlimited, and another is the Cult of the Black Widow Spiders, unquote. Her next, I can't help the dramatic voice. This is like just so pulpy. I'm loving it. Her next appearance occurs 51 years later. So her comic ran from 1940 to 1943, so 51 years later, in a flashback cameo in one panel of issue #1 of the miniseries Marvels, A Time of Marvels, written by Kurt Busiek with art by Alex Ross. And again, 11 years later, also in a brief flashback in Marvel Knights Spider-Man #9, The Last Stand, written by Mark Millar and art by Terry and Rachel Dodson. The Black Widow returns finally, for the last time, that we know of, in full-length stories, albeit as part of an ensemble cast, beginning in 2008 in The 12, written by J. Michael Straczynski with art by Chris Weston. The character appears in all 12 issues of The 12, in addition to a one-shot titled The 12 Spearhead.
Do you think Stan Lee had like arachnophobia or something?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I mean, one, let's really chalk it up to creative name usage with Clairvoyant.
Clairvoyant. Yeah, and she wasn't the original Black Widow. She's the Black Widow, and she has it's mystical satanic powers. So she's not a Russian spy at all.
and of all the things, so I teach comic books in my art classes, and the kids make up their own heroes, and they come up with, all these names, and I would say about half of them already exist as Marvel comics.
Yeah.
Stan Lee, did you run out of names?
I know. Did he not know? I mean, because she hadn't, between 1943 and 1994, she didn't have a book. So it could very well have been he just didn't know she existed.
I mean, it just... And if you haven't checked it out, there's the superhero podcast. I think it's called the Superhero Text Podcast. And one of the things that they do is they send text messages from one superhero to another.
Oh, yeah.
wicked funny. And one of them is Peter Parker talking to Black Widow and Spider-Woman. And Spider-Woman has no spider-related powers. Black Widow, no powers related to spiders. And Spider-Man's like, change names. Like, did you just run out? Like, there's a whole encyclopedia of words.
I don't know. I mean, I think personally the use of Black Widow as Natasha Romanoff's moniker is an allusion to a woman who's sensual and brings men to their death through sexual conquest. And so they were definitely going for a feel with Natasha Romanoff and calling her the Black Widow, or Black Widow instead of the Black Widow.
And if your powers are derived from satanic ritual or whatnot, call her Satania.
Or something.
I bet you if we Google it, that's a name already taken.
Probably. But it was the golden age of comics, and there was a shit ton of really bad superhero names. Really bad.
I find it kind of funny that
I know. I that's why I wanted to highlight it. I was like, this is fascinating. There's another Black Widow.
I will say clairvoyant as a name borders on 1940s dad joke.
It does. It does. I thought I was misreading it, and I was like, oh, it's one of those. I see now.
Because the term clairvoyant actually comes from well, as the popular culture as we know it now, is from the Paranormal Society, which show up in my book. That's what my whole book's about. And it doesn't exist in America yet, so I spent 3 books not being able to use the word clairvoyant.
Oh my God.
So she is a mentalist. She is psychic.
Mentalist works.
Yeah, that's what I call them in my book, because you can't just...
I like that better, actually. It's more interesting.
But like, now that the Paranormal Society shows up in the last book, like, there's words, and my vocab was able to expand.
We have language. So what are you geeking out about this week?
So all I've been doing lately is looking at artwork, and so I've been scouring the internet looking for stock photography for book cover designs and stuff like that. So really, I've been researching art. Mm-hmm. And what I have discovered is in the stock photo world, there's some issues.
So it's just kind of a reverse geek out.
Yeah. So this is the stuff that will eventually lead to geekery, I guess. And so what I've noticed is there are no women of color, just poosh, done, end. Mm-hmm. There are no awesome fantasy women, except for the one that is on every fantasy book cover known to mankind. And all fantasy women seem to wear pelts in the most provocative manner possible. And I'm supposed to believe you're riding a dragon in that. And
the chafing.
Yeah, I mean, and if you your vocab becomes really good at looking for things in dumb terms. So I was talking to you about looking for sexy women, but not sexy as in like revealing. Sexy is like that stare that makes you go, ooh.
That's like seductive, kind of sensual, yeah.
And you can't look up the word sensual. I mean, ooh,
no. Oh, no, you can't.
So you look up things like elegant warrior. What the hell are these people labeling? So I feel like I have spent the last week taking a crash course in a foreign language called stock photography.
Oh my God.
And it is hilarious, the things that I am finding. But it's going well. and I actually might have a upcoming photo shoot with a custom stock model.
Nice.
So I like everything that I've been doing lately has been taking notes about body positions and like
probably way more than you ever thought you wanted to know on the subject.
Yeah. Like, why do all women pop their hip in this manner, in this pose? Like, weird.
I blame Liefeld. The man ruined the female body.
I actually very much can buy into that. And all men must have not a V upper.
Yeah. With a disproportionately small head. I don't know why.
And big guns. Like,
huge.
How do you lift those?
Yeah. No, and the women don't have spinal cords, first of all.
No, none.
At all. If you're listening to this, you're like, who the hell is Liefeld? Just look him up. You'll recognize his art if you've read any comic book from, like, what, the 90s, 80s, 90s, right around in there?
He was the original artist for X-Force when it first debuted. And the very first issue of that, the cover art, he is my standard of comic book art. Not the best, but the standard. And I'm pretty sure every woman on that cover can kiss her own butt.
Oh, yeah. I would, yeah. I'm not. They have to be able to show their ass while simultaneously their upper body is pointed back so that you can see their breasts. I'm like, wow. You just want a woman that's like half backwards. That's all he wanted.
Basically Gumby women.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, I'm sorry. I hijacked your geek out. Go on.
So I think most of what I've been doing is going back and looking at like old school photography books. And I mean, stock art is a very different beast, but a lot of the inspiration where people are getting these from are from old school black and white photos. And it's been kind of cool to go back and look at all of these classic photos and now seeing kind of the history of photography evolution. And what I am finding is I'm actually finding more stock photos of models, not stock models, but runway models and couture fashion and
interesting
weird. Like, I don't want a woman that looks like every other urban fantasy woman. I want a woman who's wearing some bizarre crap from a French runway.
Absolutely.
And what do you know? I have found lots of it. So, I also spent way too much time going through Ziggy's portfolio. I don't know. She is known for the European mod movement.
Yeah.
And I secretly want to live then. Because
there was
awesome.
Yeah, there was a level of fabulousness. It's like, well, shit.
And guy was expected.
Oh yeah, you had to.
So that's basically, I've been doing a whole lot of weird photo-related geeking lately.
Nice. I love it.
And if you ever want something super interesting to check out, just go check out the history of couture photography. And it's hours of just clothing that's not suitable for anywhere but a runway, which makes you wonder why they do it, but it's beautiful, so who cares?
It's art.
Yeah.
It's living art.
It's kind of like you could write that magnificent novel of literary greatness that no one will ever read, or you can write jeans and a t-shirt.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. What have you been geeking out about?
So I had a really hard time picking my geek out this week because I've just been kind of floating along. Like, I don't really want to have to think about like trying a new thing. I just want simple, But I've been trying to read more urban fantasy or paranormal romance to get a lot better handle on the genre. And because I haven't really delved into it in a while, since I'm pivoting my books toward more romance, I figured I should probably start reading more romance. So I picked up a book from Deborah Wild called Blood and Ash. And it's funny, I usually don't buy books based on 1-star ratings, but there were 2 1-star ratings for this book that I was like, well, now I have to read it, because they complained about the representation, and not all right-wing people are homophobe racists, and which is probably true, but if you have to complain about it really virulently, it might be because you feel like she's talking about you. And there were a couple other things like, sex outside of marriage and descriptions of it. And I was like, well,
It's called the Jezebel Files.
I know it is. It's called the Jezebel Files. So, and it's paranormal romance, which has some steam, is very expected in that genre. Very expected. I have yet to read a sweet paranormal romance. So
How much to make that a thing?
I don't know how you would even do that. But so I had to buy this book. I mean, it's on Kindle Unlimited, so it was like I was actually purchasing it, but I was like, I just have to try this. I usually don't like snarky female protagonists because they just come off as bitches, and I hate to say that word, but they do. They all feel like they're exactly the same, and they're just annoying. You're like that annoying person in high school that you just wanted to punch. And so I wasn't expecting anything great. My bar was set super low, and I really liked this book. Yeah, and I could see exactly where these 1-star reviewers were coming from, because the book was great. It had great representation. The sex scenes were amazing, and there was 2 of them, and I was like, woo! It's a bit gory. Her power set is blood magic. So let your mind wander. I don't want to ruin it for anybody that wants to read it. And she was but she wasn't snarky. So I say it like that because she had kind of a sarcastic sense of humor, but she wasn't mean about it. She was just, the way she was written, actually, she was so real. She kind of just jumped off the page at me. And her sense of humor was very sarcastic, but it wasn't without purpose. It was her armor. And you learn more about her in the book, why she is like this. And then you get to see underneath the armor and the fact that she really has this soft core that she is trying to protect from getting hurt anymore. And so I feel like not enough people that write snarky female protagonists give them that. They're in a bad mood all the time just because. And that wasn't the case with this character. So it's called Blood and Ash. It's the first book of the Jezebel Files by Deborah Wild, and that's Wild with an E. I highly recommend it. I gave it 5 stars. I don't do a whole lot of book reviews these days. And I'll be honest, because there's a lot of books that I don't finish because they just don't hold my attention anymore. But this one I really liked, and I'm going to pick up the second one. So there you have it.
The one, I've seen the model on the cover.
Oh yeah, very.
I now know every stock model ever.
I was looking at the cover and I'm like, she looks very familiar. I bet.
And she's Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
If you are thinking, I want someone on the cover, she kind of looks like Jessica Jones. Well, here, click, you got it.
She's a private investigator. It's set in Canada. And magic is just a matter of course. It's everywhere. Everybody knows about it. Great.
Man, hands in pockets. Why do they do it?
I don't know.
There's potential for hand magic. And
well, I don't know how you would show her magic on the cover, because like I said, it's blood magic. She literally uses blood. She can shape things out of blood. And it's funny. I don't think I'm ruining anything for anybody, but the first time she doesn't think she has magic. At the beginning, she's what's called a mundane. And then she gets injured and it breaks the seal that somebody tattooed on her without her knowledge, and it unleashes her magic. And so she's completely taken by surprise. And the first thing that she forms, because she can form solid objects out of her blood, the first thing she forms is a dildo.
I mean,
on accident. It's not even on purpose. She's just with this guy that she kind of has this love-hate, enemies to lovers relationship with. And she thinks, God, what a dick. And then, know it, all of a sudden, there it is, a dildo on the ground.
I mean, if you had blood magic and you could do that, like, everyone's asking the question. Like,
I know.
the answer.
Oh, but I just thought it was so priceless. I was like, that is awesome. So yeah, Blood and Ash by Deborah Wild. Go check it out if you're looking for something fun and just really honestly like a cross between, I would say, Jessica Jones and actually just more like Jessica Jones than anything else. But yeah, go get it.
All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back.
Behind every great superhero story is a sleep-deprived author. Join Franklin Kendrick every Friday as he takes you behind the mask and asks today's hottest superhero authors the burning question we all want to know. Do they always write in spandex, or is that just a weekend thing?
So do you want to introduce the movie for our deep dive? Or do you want me to?
Okay, so how I found out about this movie was I'm pretty sure it was a YouTube commercial years ago, like 2015. The movie comes out in 2017, and it looks like a fan-made movie to some, not necessarily in execution, but definitely in kind of the weirdness of the powers.
Mm-hmm.
It's not exactly what I would call marketable in this regard. And the trailer definitely caught my attention. And, of course, the trailer shows the best of the best in the movie. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, can't wait for this to come out. And so it comes out in Russia, and that's it. That was the end of that story. And I was like, I want to see it. And it made money in Russia.
Huh.
Like, it was a box office hit. And of course, you could very quickly tell that they are, trying to replicate the success of the Avengers. Mm-hmm. But Russia is a slightly smaller population. So, respectively, it did really well. Now, the movie is done on a shoestring budget.
Yes, it is.
And every time a special effects happen, in the trailer you don't notice this because they probably spent all their money on the trailer. But every time a special effects happens, you're like, $sign. Oh, you only have 4 more left. Got to use them judiciously. But we're not going to save any for the ending. So do you want to kind of tell the synopsis for it, or?
I'm going to try, because honestly, the plot was my biggest issue with this movie. And I'm going to lump the script in with that. So basically, there are these, right after the Cold War, Russian scientists did experiments on people to try to basically create superheroes. They did experiments on people and on animals. And if I'm understanding correctly, because the film I watched, there was no the subtitled version was not available. It was just the English dubbing, which is really unfortunate because that's so bad. But if I'm understanding it correctly, everybody was voluntary. Like, they volunteered for these projects. So they weren't like kidnapped and experimented on or something crazy like that. And I will say my favorite part of the movie is the opening. The opening was really interesting. Yeah, it was. I was like, it kind of got my hopes up. I was like, oh, okay, this is like really kind of interesting opening, because it shows.
You in.
Yeah, it really does, because it shows the heroes, the 4 heroes, in the labs getting experimented on, but not like in a creepy body horror kind of way. More like they're getting injections, and then, oh, look, now they can move rocks. And so that kind of stuff. And it was a nice setup. It was like, okay, here we go. What ends up happening is one of the scientists that was on this project, he gets really pissed off because he's not giving credit for his work. So he goes all super villain on people. And he sets off a bomb, and somehow he's the only one that's suddenly very roided out and has all these like metal things on his hands, and he can control electrical currents and electronics and stuff like that. And so I don't even really know. Here's where I get lost. I do not know what his whole end game was. I have no idea what he wanted.
He wanted to be able to amplify his powers. And that's the end of that logic right there.
Yeah. So, but that's not even clear in the movie, like at all.
He doesn't really have a goal.
No, he doesn't.
And it almost kind of reminds me of Captain America Civil War. Not the good parts that you remember, but the villain who you don't remember. The villain who wanted to make them not Facebook friends.
Yeah. That was his entire goal.
And this villain has basically that much motivation in him.
Yeah. I did not understand it. But anyway, so we're introduced to this really skinny blonde woman whose name I don't know. I don't know if they said what her name was, but if they did, I didn't catch it. Her entire purpose, she's handed over the Guardians project. We don't know why it was given to her. It just is. Okay, fine. Whatever.
Major Lorena.
Major Lorena. There we go. So this woman, who is basically just a walking closet, she has a costume change every 5 minutes, which is fine. I'm all for having a fashion sense, but that's pretty much her entire character. She's basically a walking, pair of stilettos and nice fashion sense. She doesn't have a character. At least I didn't think she had a character.
Who is Destro's girlfriend?
Destro? Oh,
the Baroness?
Yeah.
She's the Baroness.
She's the Baroness. Yeah, well, that is a great, yeah. But she's supposed to go find these people. And what cracked me up, right? And then this is one of the first signs of, oh God, we're in for it, was she's like, so I have to find these superheroes and nobody knows where their last location is and nobody knows, where they could possibly be. And then within literally like 3 minutes, a 3-minute montage, her team has found them.
Oh,
so
no,
it wasn't that hard.
It's even before that when she casually looks over her shoulder to the general and goes, "What is the project's name?" "We call it Guardians." When you're in the first 5 minutes of a movie and you name drop the title,
it's okay. So bad.
Those early expectations have now gone way down.
Well, it even happened. Okay, I'm going to go back even further. And keep in mind, everybody, we're in the first 10 minutes of the movie. So, the very first real scene we have after, there's a scene where a bunch of robots go crazy and they kill everybody. And it's revealed, like, what you think is the villain, because he's this really weird looking, roided out, bald headed dude who just looks like he's angry. So you're just like, oh, okay, that's probably the villain. So now you're in this briefing room, this military briefing room, and we are treated to 3 or 4 minutes of exposition. And I am not exaggerating. They basically, they have this huge, long exposition. It is all the backstory, all of it.
So here's the issue. A issue with this movie is that it is both a get the team back together story and an origin story. But the origin takes place in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. They give you all the origins. They tell you why this guy is pissed off. They tell you that it's the fate of the world. You have to find these guys. Okay, I guess I'm okay. And then, like I said, it takes them all of 3 minutes to find them. And then the next
montage.
Yeah, you just need the montage.
There are a lot of good montages.
Oh my God. Well, yeah. Okay, so I do want to say that I think this movie actually would have been decent. It would have been fun to watch. Not great, but it would have been fun to watch if they had a decent script. But I feel like the fault of why this movie is bad has nothing to do with the bare bones special effects or anything like that. It has to do with the fact that the script was so bad. They committed the cardinal sin of storytelling over and over and over again for an hour and a half. They told us fucking everything and showed us nothing.
And now you understand why I like X-Men 3 so much. If you haven't figured it out, I'm the one who picked the movie for this topic. So there are a lot of saving graces, and I will still recommend this movie to people because it is a superhero movie that does not follow a Marvel storytelling structure.
That is true.
That both good and bad.
Yeah.
The good is they actually let their powers become personifications of who the characters are. Like they very much play into who these characters are. And we don't see that as much in Marvel movies. And like a prime example is Quicksilver. Quicksilver in X-Men was the best part of the movie because his speed plays into his personality, how he operates, and they gave him the breathing room to have this amazing moment. And let's be honest, of the whole movie, that's really all we remember.
Oh, well, hell yeah, yeah.
So this movie did do that stuff well.
And they had an interesting power set, I thought. Each of them, I do have quibbles with the woman, but I thought the guys had very interesting power sets. And they used them interestingly. Like the rock guy in particular, one of the first fight scenes is him, and he basically encases himself in rocks and fights. And I'm like, that's a really interesting use of that power, because usually you would see people like picking up rocks and tossing them at people, but he used it as an armor and as a fist weapon, like a melee weapon. It was really cool.
And we've seen like Iceman has done that when Emma Frost took over his body. He's never done it since. Waste.
Lame.
So of the powers we have, there's only 4 heroes, which is the other thing I like. Like, let's keep the cast reasonable. So Major Lorena's power is to wear really tight suits in professionally inappropriate places.
And
And
6-inch stilettos.
Yeah, I mean,
how the fuck does she walk in those?
I kind of want to know, is that like an actual Russian thing, or are we just talking fantasy here? Because
I don't know. Okay, the pencil skirt that she wore the very first, I was like, it was so tight, she couldn't even take a normal stride in it.
Yeah,
that's how tight it was.
Toe heel.
Yeah.
But it does make the Black Widow seem way more feasible now.
Yeah.
So you have, I'm going to pronounce all of these wrong. So you have Lair, who's a geomancer, and he was my favorite because he has this cool electronic whip thing that serves no purpose to his powers.
None. They try to justify it, and it was dumb.
And he does compound it with his powers, but it doesn't really belong there.
No.
But he's a geomancer. The first time you see him, he's just levitating some rocks, and he just hurls them. The power you would expect. And then they spend the rest of the movie going, this is what we can do with special effects. Okay, I was thrilled. Ursus, who for some reason the dubbed version, they have such bad accents, it's pronounced Arsus, and all I can think is he needs to get off his arse and save the day over and over again.
I know, so distracting.
He is a werebear, which I just like saying that. with a heavy artillery machine gun strapped to his back.
Because it was cool. That was the only upgrade they did that I was like, okay, I kind of want to see how this one plays out.
There's a moment when they're all getting their superhero uniforms, and he goes, "What about me?" And the next scene is him hurling someone through the air, and this werebear pulls around this machine gun and just starts obliterating everything. Like,
the werebear with the back submachine gun, like,
this whole plot was made by 10-year-old boys.
and you can tell. You can
really
tell.
felt that way. Khan, who I would put against Bucky any day of the week, and I prefer this one.
I want to see that mashup, actually. Now I can't unthink it.
Khan even looks like the actor who plays Bucky.
Yeah, true.
And he wears a blackface mask, so he's all mysterious and dark and brooding. And when he's standing still, he has like what I thought was a giant chakram on his back that, you know, he would hurl like a hula hoop of death.
But it's so much cooler than that. Oh my God, those blades.
So they're blades he holds in his hands that kind of go down his forearms, and they're super curved. Mm-hmm. And you're like, okay, you have the most illogical fighting weapon, except he teleports. And he is everything you've ever wanted Nightcrawler to be.
Exactly.
He teleports in and decimates people. And there is no shortage of chopping up humans in this movie. I mean, it's still PG-ish, but someone sat down and goes, well, if I could teleport, why wouldn't I just teleport in, stab him in the throat, and teleport out?
Exactly. That's exactly what he does.
Amazingly. And then, of course, there's only going to be one female because we got to keep the
it's
quota.
The Highlander principle. It's the Highlander principle.
And I think her name is Xenia, but I might be wrong because I'm not sure they even pronounce her name.
Yeah, I don't think they actually give her a name, which fits with her, honestly.
I don't even know if Khan has a name other than the initial, we need to find these people. He's just too mysterious for it.
Exactly.
The only one we know is Arceus over and over again.
Yeah, they do say his name a lot.
A lot, and with a bad accent. But Xenia's power is she can go invisible. And this is
in water. In water only.
Only in water. Now, yes, is that potentially gimping her abilities? Yes. But from a superhero special effects point of view, it's either this or we have Fantastic Four.
Exactly.
So in Fantastic Four, Jessica Alba just poof goes invisible, and then occasionally we hear her voice bouncing through the air, or she's naked. Or this is so much cooler because when you're first introduced to her, she is part of a circus, and she is, because of course she's the woman, she has to be all acrobatic and ninja-like. It starts raining in her act, and all of a sudden she goes invisible, but you can still see her in the fact that she has a
sheen.
Yeah.
Yeah. She looks like glass. It looks like she's suddenly like a woman made out of glass. And of all the effects, I actually like this one the best.
And it was just an interesting way where someone was like, we want invisibility, but we need to find a way to make it not Fantastic Four. And they delivered. She can use her abilities as long as she's wet. And so she wears clothes throughout the whole thing.
Sorry. The 12-year-old in me went to the logical conclusion of that statement.
You live in the gutter. It's bad for me to be the one saying that.
Well, and sorry, I have issues with the invisible woman trope, but that's me.
And I did like that she did have a decent fighting part.
She did. She had good fighting skills.
Yeah, and she was one of the team. Like, she served a purpose, and she fit right in. The only thing I didn't like was because her powers were kind of limited in context. It's not like she had as many badass moments. She did have 2.
Yeah, I would say that I would agree with that. Honestly, the guys had way more badass moments than she did. And I did not like the first scene where they come in and she has amnesia. So she's the only one that really doesn't remember anything. I mean, to my knowledge, we never know why. I don't think that's ever explained.
No, it's not.
Um,
She's supposed to be the proxy for the viewer.
Yeah, she's born sexy yesterday. That's the trope that she is, born sexy yesterday. And if you don't know what it is, look it up. Trust me. But they're really condescending and rude to her when they meet her. And I'm just like, you need to beat the crap out of these guys. This is not okay, the way they're treating her.
And her storyline, like, I got it that if you're supposed to be the proxy, everyone's explaining everything to you, just explain it to us. But we already sat through 5 minutes of exposition.
Exactly. We didn't need a proxy at that point.
It almost felt like Joss Whedon came in and redirected it.
Well, okay, the thing that really annoyed me, so they had no character development.
No.
But they wanted us to care about these characters. So what do? They use fashionista. I'm just going to call her fashionista. They use fashionista as like the therapist of the group.
Yeah.
When she hadn't even known them like a week. It was maybe a day. And suddenly they're spilling all these horrible, heartbreaking, gut-wrenching secrets to her. My absolute favorite worst moment, one of these, was Khan telling her about the time that he got so angry at his brother that he used his powers and slaughtered him, right? So just a horrible, awful thing. He's so gut-wrenched about it. He's so terrible. And she's like, I'm sorry for your loss, but we really need you now. And that was her response to, I raged out and I murdered my brother. Okay, wow. And it worked because he came back inside and let's go beat the bad guy.
And so now that the team's back together, though they technically were never apart for this movie, they have to defeat the big bad. And Russian invaders that we're not quite sure where they came from, but he's very Cobra Commander.
Oh, he is. He is.
What was the job application to become a henchman? Is what I want.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of them. Like,
he made clones. Well, and it's a lot of clones. He's like his clone army, and I'm just like, God, they keep coming. How many did he make?
And out of nowhere, they all of a sudden have all the tanks and armored vehicles. Like, did no one see this getting like requisitioned somewhere?
Apparently not.
He just comes out of nowhere. Now, the cool thing is there is some advanced weaponry in this world, and it's mostly seen in the form of spider-like machines with guns, which, every 10-year-old boy just loves this idea.
Yeah.
And because he can control electrical currents, which allows him to control mechanics, he basically takes them all over and turns into a robot army, basically.
It's Rise of the Machines, people.
It's so Rise of the Machine, except you just have an angry scientist at the front of this.
Yeah.
And so when we get to the final, I don't even want to call it final battle, because there's not much battling.
It's kind of the fight.
He's on the top of this tower, which will allow him to transmit his abilities around the world, because world conquest, I guess. Because Cobra Commander did it.
Yeah, exactly.
And
it's cool.
Everyone has to get to the tower, and it just turns into this weird hodgepodge of gotta get there, gotta get there, gotta get there. And then when it actually happens, the final battle is so lackluster that you're like, huh. Okay. Credits? Oh, it's over. Sequel? No. Okay. It almost I actually wonder from a story structure way, if you had watched it in reverse, if it would have, it almost is the same.
Yeah.
Low opening, rise, the problem gets posed, problem gets solved. You have a rise in action, you have a fall, the defeat. You have the rise, except the final climax rise is a very low rise, and then it goes back to resting. So I think if you spun the story structure backwards, it's the same structure.
Which is a problem.
Which is a problem.
Yeah.
But you should go watch this movie.
Well, and I honestly, so the things I liked about it is there are some very interesting visuals. Like I said, the opening credits were really, really good. The practical makeup effects on the villain were incredible. That is, I just have a basic knowledge of practical makeup effects, and even I know that was not easy to accomplish.
And I think if they had spent, or if they had had more money to spend, to take his practical effects and dial it up a little, it would have been stellar. But he just wound up looking like a really good makeup job.
Yeah, and he did. It was from his waist up. He was in like a latex suit, and then a full head and neck latex helm, and over his face it looks like too.
The best for practical was Ursus as giant man bear.
The first time he comes on screen, Dan starts cracking up. He's like, "Oh my God, that's bad." And it's funny though, because this is the one part of the movie where to me it's so bad it's kind of entertaining, and I kind of liked it. I was like, yeah, it is so bad, but I'm loving it for some reason.
So, and there's two versions of it. There's a practical version, and then there's a special effects version. So there's a scene where he's standing still as the bear. And
I don't remember this.
It's during one of the fights, like the camera's panning on him. And he looks, I'm not going to say 100% convincing, but I'll wade into that pool.
Yeah.
And then he starts fighting.
Yeah. It's when he starts moving that you really see the breakdown of the effects. But like if he's standing still, it's fine.
And it almost felt, because if you have a giant bear head and the upper torso of a bear, where are your shoulders? And I feel like whatever their answer was wrong. Like in the armature of that 3D model, the shoulders were in the wrong spot.
I don't know where you'd put them. I mean, you're right, because he's upright. He's not on all fours. So it gets really tricky. And
the camera moves very quickly, so you don't get a chance to dwell on it.
But there were some really nice visuals, I thought. I liked Khan and his fighting style. I thought Ursus was kind of entertaining when he transformed. Like I said, I really liked the way that the Geomancer used his powers. I thought that was a really creative use of that power set. But
his
all of that
battle was, I think, my favorite.
Yeah, agreed. I think that was great. Although I could have done without the whole Bane breaking Batman's back moment. Did you get that? The big bad guy picks him up and literally drops him on his leg and breaks his back.
Oh, I don't think I remember that.
Yeah, it's a total. It looks like a shot for shot homage to Bane breaking Batman's back. That's what it looks like. Somebody really loved that moment.
My favorite special effects moment is the Geomancer is all like bouldered up and super bulky, and the villain punches him as hard as possible in the chest, and the rock stays still and keep the form, and he knocks him out of the back of the rock suit.
Oh, I don't remember that. I was really tired last night.
That was my favorite. Like, so whoever was in charge of the special effects, like, you were handed, $1.99 and told make caviar.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I can do some amazing things with chicken nuggets.
No, the team was handed an impossible task, and they did a great job with it. It was not enough to save that movie for me. I will never watch that movie again.
Just talking about it, I want to go watch it again.
The story's so bad. It's so bad.
I think the person who I would recommend that would like this movie is someone who wants to see a unique take on superpowers. Because my big beef with Marvel is not the movies, the comics more so. Iceman, for instance, you've been making ice slides for 60, 70 years now. What else can you do?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you made an ice wall? Okay, what else?
Yeah. Ice knives, maybe.
And there was this huge thing when Emma Frost took over his body and jacked him up and like used his powers in weird ways. And there was a moment afterwards when he's like, I'm basically still a man-child and don't know how to use my powers correctly. Yeah, you think?
That's...
So, like, I get it. Cyclops, you shoot eye beams. There's only so many things you can do. But I've watched him countless times, like, ricochet that bad boy off every surface to smack someone in the back of the head.
He could draw dirty pictures on walls.
Yeah, like, I mean, he probably does. But, like, there's certain people who don't ever get creative with their powers. And I like this, people got creative. And the reason I like X3 is because it's just a plethora of powers with no substance. And after being so annoyed with comic books not doing it, you know what I was super happy with? Kitty Pryde in that movie took on Juggernaut and used her powers in a cool way that stopped the Juggernaut.
Yeah, it was really cool.
And since that movie, I'm reading The Marauders right now, and Kitty Pryde actually uses her powers in weird, creative manners. And I'm like, finally, someone's thinking of how to use you. So this movie does that.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I'm not going to sell it on much else.
No. No.
So if you just want visual eye candy that is about 20 minutes of the movie, definitely check it out.
Well, and you can just fast forward through all the exposition, which is 75% of the film, honestly.
Yeah, and it's not like any of it's ever going to make sense, so it's not like you need to hear it.
Exactly.
Just watch cool powers.
Yeah. The fight scenes are pretty good.
Robot spiders.
Because the world needs more robot spiders.
Yeah. So you've already put in the question of the week. So what is it?
The question of the week is, what is your favorite "it's so bad it makes it good" kind of movie? It's so bad it's good movie. What is your favorite?
You want to know what my favorite "so bad it's good" movie?
Yes.
It might be so bad and it knows it's so bad, so it might actually be genius. Final Girls.
Oh, okay. You've talked about this before.
The whole premise is they're in a horror movie, they're horror buffs, and they're stuck. And they're going to use their horror knowledge to get out of the movie.
That sounds like your Zombie High series.
It's so meta. It's so Cabin in the Woods. But it has some of the best. If females have sex, they're gonna die. So there's a natural plot point to make sure that the horny teenage girl doesn't have sex, and she's compelled to because that's the way she was written. And they make her wear oven mitts so she can't take off her blouse.
That's brilliant.
Like, that movie gets me. It's so bad, it's amazing.
So do you want to know mine?
What is it?
Dodgeball. A true underdog story. I cannot not watch that movie. If it's on TV, I have to stop and watch it. It is one of my happy places. If I am down, it's either Dodgeball, Bridesmaids, or Easy A. Those are my three go-tos. And out of those three, I think Dodgeball is so bad, it's good. Hands down.
The Pocket Full of Sunshine used to be my, not the
Easy.
actual song, the clip from the movie.
From the movie Easy A, yeah. I love that. She was so good in that movie.
If ever I'm feeling sad and I need a pick me up, it is that clip.
Exactly. It's Melissa McCarthy in Bridesmaids, though.
Oh yeah.
That's a whole nother level. Like,
that was commitment to a role of
I heart her so much.
I can't think of her as not being that role. Like,
yeah.
I assume that's just her naturally.
I love that she steals like 6 pugs from the bridal shower. It's hilarious.
My other one would be Romy and Michelle.
Oh, I love Romy and Michelle. Oh my God, that is so bad it's good.
Every geeky girl out there, when they hear Time After Time, their mind goes to that dance.
It does, actually. Oh my God.
And you think, I wish I had a bestie to share my boyfriend with.
I think if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. I used to be able to tell you how many times Justin Long got hit in the nads in that movie, and it is quite a few times.
Oh, for a superhero movie, Mystery Men.
Oh, I loved Mystery Men. The Specials was also very good, very underrated.
The Specials?
You haven't seen The Specials, but you watched Guardians?
We obviously see how my tastes go. I like X-Men 3.
Okay, go on Amazon. I think it's on Amazon. It's called The Specials.
Okay.
And it's kind of like Mystery Men. It's like the poor man's version of Mystery Men, if that's even possible.
Okay. I made you watch Guardians. I can watch this.
Yeah, I think you'll like it. It's so weird.
So yeah, as you obviously can see, our tastes go from Marvel Cinematic to why the hell did they make this movie? And obviously we like the lower end.
Hey, there is a time and a place for X3. I just can't come up with it right now.
So yeah, let us know what your favorite bad movie is, and we're going to have to talk about them on next episode, of course.
Yes, we are.
So tune in for next week.
Thank you, everybody. To stay up to date with the Geekorama podcast, you can watch our videos on YouTube or subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. And if you enjoy the show, leave us a review or hit the thumbs up button. New episodes are released on Thursdays for podcast listeners and YouTube fans.